So in this video we are going to be looking at one of the starter sets from Airfix. Now this one is the F35, which of course you obviously already knew that because you clicked onto the video. Now I'm going to go through a few bits and pieces with the kit and what you get inside, obviously. And you know, it's looking at, you know, if you're new to the hobby or you're considering buying a model and starting the hobby, or if you're looking to buy a model for somebody, you're going to know how this sort of kit goes together and actually is it an actual starter set, because we have had issues in the past with starter sets just being basically normal kits with glue and paint added into, but these are a lot more different to those older starter sets. So I'll go through a few bits with you. I also have a special guest within this video, so grab yourself a brew and a bicky and let's jump straight into it. So Airfix's starter set of the F35. Now within the box, obviously, well, see on the box we have a lovely picture of the aircraft. On the back we have colours and colour call-out. It's simply grey. It's generally why I don't usually do modern aircraft. So within the kit, obviously, we get a glues, we get a paints as well that we're going to need for this build. Some of the older Airfix starter sets and gift sets come with paintbrushes and they weren't very good, but these days they supply you with two really nice paintbrushes for you to be able to apply your paint on this kit. We also have our instructions, a before you start set instruction sheet, which we'll have a look in a moment as well, and we have our decals. These are the cartograph decals. They are really nicely printed, which you always expect from cartograph. Now with our instructions, I think we're going to show you. No, we're going to start with the. I should have realised what I was doing before we started this, shouldn't I? So we look at our before you start sheet, which gives you all the information you're going to really need on how to actually, you know, build your kits, and a couple of little hints and tips there as well. We also have a singular bag of sprues which we'll go through, but first we'll have a look at the clear part because that was the first one I had to hand. The clear parts for these are exceptionally well, as you'll be able to see now that they are that clear. You can read the text straight the way through them. Now the beauty of Airfix's newer starter sets is to make these builds a lot more straightforward and simple. So they give you the least amount of parts possible, make them as large as they can, like you can see with this top section of the aircraft. But even though they've made it relatively simple, they haven't skimped on the detail. As you can see, the detail is exceptionally well. Again, like I said, it's lacking in parts, so it's not overly detailed in that fashion, but as you can see from the moulding itself, it is really good. Now, there are sort of, on a technicality, two versions of this kit, obviously the same aircraft, but you have the choice of being able to have your undercarriage up or down, which we'll look at a little bit later on in the video. The kit also comes with a really nice shadow stand with two different stands for the model to go on, which will give you two different positions to position the aircraft. As we open up the instructions, we come on to our first page, which gives you the entire sprue tree of all the sprues and their letters for the sprue, and obviously the numbers for each singular part. Now, one of the things I really like about these starter set instructions is that they are very simple. Each step has as minimal information as possible, but also giving you a lot of information at the same time. As daft as that sounds, I know. So what I mean by this is if this is going to be your first kit, a lot of the instructions will work on a certain area. So like the cockpit section, you may have about, you know, sort of like 4, 5, 6, 7 parts maybe in one step. Now what they've done is that they've reduced the amount of information in those, so it may make the instructions a little bit longer, but again they are still very simple because they're showing you areas where you need to cut and areas where you need to glue. They're also showing you, you know, what version of the aircraft you want to be doing, and then it will tell you to skip to certain parts if need be, so you're always on track with the version of the kit that you want to be building. Now, if you don't want to have the aircraft with all the undercarriage and everything all closed up, you can go for the slightly more involved part of the build, which is having the undercarriage down, the exhaust nozzle pointed down with all the door bays open and all that business. Now, it doesn't really make this build any much more complicated. It just means you can do a few more steps for this version of the build. And like I said, doing this version of it, it's no more complicated. They are still making it nice and simple for you to follow, and also because you're having the wheel bay doors open and all the other stuff open, they're also giving you the colour callouts for those areas as well. And in both versions, whichever way you do this, the last stage will be putting the pilot and the canopy on, and then it'll be showing you builds in the base, which is again simple. It's only in 2 parts. It's just only depending on what position you want your model to be in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a couple of nice simple tips on gluing your model together. Now, as I said before, Airfix very kindly give you some polished cement to put your model together. This stuff is admittedly not the best to use straight out from the tube because it is quite messy. So what you want to do is get yourself a bit of card from the box, put a dollop onto the centre, or anywhere on the card really, it doesn't have to be the centre, and grab yourself a cocktail stick. And you can use this to put it across the areas that need to be glued together, and this will keep it all nice and neat and not have all the glue spewing all over the model. Or you can use my trusty favourite, which is an old paintbrush with a bit of wire wrap at the end, which I've super glued on to keep it attached. A little length of wire coming off it with a little eyelet at the end, which will hold the glue in on there for a little bit. And then all you have to do is exactly the same thing as we did with the cocktail stick. Now, the benefit of using this sort of makeshift piece is that it's more reusable than a cocktail stick. Polished cement also comes in different types of tubes. So you have this one with a nozzle, which makes for easier application. Very much similar to what we were doing with the cocktail stick, but because it's in a tube and it's got this nice nozzle to be able to make it easier for applying the glue rather than having to keep going back to our blob, we could just put it across the areas again where we need to glue. It also has a longer drying time, same as the tube, so it's very good for larger areas like we can see here for gluing the main body. So the last glue I'm going to show you is Tamiya extra thin cement. Now this glue comes with a brush applicator, so a bit like we did at the start, we are going to have to keep going backwards and forwards applying the glue with this one. So how this differs to the other glues is the fact that this one works on capillary action. So for this glue, all we're going to need to do is put our parts together and then dab a little bit of the glue either in the corner, or you can actually run it down the part, and the glue will basically seep into the cracks, spread along and glue our parts together. So I do really want to stress that you don't need to go out and buy these glues to make this kit. Like I said before, Airfix supply you with the glue, and I showed you a nice way of being able to apply that glue rather than using it straight for the tube. It's what I used to do as a kid, you know, gluing these straight from the tube, and it comes out all gloopy. You know, you've got molten plastic everywhere and fingerprints plastered all over the model. So I just wanted to show you that there are other products out there which you can use further down the line if you are carry on, you know, with your modelling journey. As I mentioned earlier, as you go through the build, they will give you colour callouts of the areas that need to be painted, and in the case of this one, the cockpit is the first one that you will need to do. Now I'll give you a bit of a word of warning of these paints. Some of them you may find that have dried out a little bit. Now if you just add a little bit of water to these because they're acrylic, that will revive the paint a little bit. I know Airfix have been working on getting better paints within the kit and working out. I think it's been an issue with the pot, so don't be disheartened with it. Just try and add a little bit of water to revive the paint. Once you've let the paint dry, you can put your first decal in, which is your instrument panel. These are water slide decals, so all you need to do is find out which is the right decal, because it will give you the number, and soak it in a little bit of water for a bit, and then it will slide off, and then you can put that onto your model. And then once that's done, you can then add your pilot. Now they do give you colour callouts for your pilot figure. I did go my own way a little bit and paint my pilot figure a little bit different. And at this point of the build, they will then tell you to put your canopy on. Now, like I said, you could leave this off until the end after you've painted the model. It's entirely up to you, it's your model. But the beauty of these canopies in the quick starts is that they are just a push fit, so there's no real need to glue or do anything with them. And then finally, it's putting the model onto its base. Now, like I said before, you get two options for this. You have this, what I'm calling the flat and level position, which shows off the model really nicely. But then you also have this nice dramatic posed one. Now, make your decision with this, because you are going to have to glue it, because the weight of the model doesn't like to sit on it, and it kind of just sort of, you know, doesn't hold. So yeah, glue it into place if that's the one you want. But this is, to be fair, a really nice and really cool dramatic pose for the model to be in. So originally what I was going to do with this video was I was going to build it up, and in my head while I do my builds and for the filming, I'll go through stuff from head and what I think I'm going to say. And I was going to say at this point, you know, this is really easy, you know, really easy build to do. Now I realise that it's easy for me to say that because I have been modelling on and off for the past, I don't know, 15, 20 plus years. So it is easy for me to say this is really simple because I know what I'm doing. So I decided to draft somebody in for this part. So the person that I've got in for this build not only has never really built a model before, also really doesn't care for modelling either. And that person is my wife. So I'd asked the wife if she wouldn't mind helping me with the video and building a model. And of course, I got the filthiest look known to man. But she very kindly helped me out and said she would build this model for us, so we could see how easy it was for a new starter to build one of these kits. Now, I had very little input in this build. I just helped out with a couple of odd questions here and there. So, how are you finding it so far?
Finding it quite easy, and the instructions are clear. Obviously, you've pointed me in the direction on a couple of things that I haven't really understood, but otherwise, yeah, simple so far.
Cool. At the start of the build, she asked me how I wanted her to build the model, so basically which version. And I said, look, basically, this is your model, you do it how you wanted. And she went for the option with the landing gear down, the nozzles, and all the doors open. Which I will admit, I was quite surprised at this decision. I generally thought she would go for the flying pose, which meant she could get the build done quicker and get out of my workshop as quickly as possible. Now, there was only one point that I had to step in and give her a hand, because she'd accidentally cut off the pegs for the doors from the sprue just by mistake. But generally, everything else, she did it herself, and I've got to say, I was really impressed with her for going for this option. So there we go, there was Mrs. Sully's build of the model, and obviously I've got her with me to talk a little bit about it. So, what did you think of it? Because obviously you've not, I know you did some stuff for me before, but you've never built a proper model from like start to finish with instructions.
No, I've never built a model start to finish. It may have helped if someone showed me the instructions.
No, I showed you the instructions, I didn't show you the before the start bit.
No, you didn't show me the instructions.
No, I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you had the instructions, you followed the instructions.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Yeah, no, so the build, I found it quite easy. I did flick to see how many steps there were before I started, so I sort of had a bit of an idea of how long I was going to have to build for. In my head, I thought it was only going to take me an hour. In the end, it took me 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, that was that bad.
I don't think it was that bad, but...
You said it felt like an hour anyway.
It did only feel like an hour.
Obviously enjoyed it.
Now I know why 10 minutes can now be 40 minutes in the man cave. So, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, nice and easy. I did make one mistake. I couldn't figure out what I'd done. But at least we managed to get it to
it was when you cut
right.
Yeah, you accidentally cut the doors off for the pegs for the doors rather than the I can't remember what they're called now, the little screw gate things. I think it's part of the ejection thing. I can't remember. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you did all right considering as well. I didn't think you was going to go, which was really impressed with the fact that you went down the more involved route rather than just doing the straightforward.
Well, I thought if I was going to build a model, I might as well do the most complicated one, because I never thought that I might do one again.
It was complicated.
It was quite complicated. You haven't built any of yours with the doors open.
Well, that's because they're for a different... Yeah, so I'm doing a different project with mine, which has got all the gears and everything up. But that, well, yeah, you'll see that when that comes out at some point. But do you enjoy it, though?
Yeah, it was
Because
alright.
we
It was
sat
good.
together,
It was
didn't we?
good. I don't normally come this side of the man cave. So yeah, it was quite good. Because the spiders. Whoa, no. It's not even funny. Yeah, but yeah, so no, I know now when a fag break is now a 40-minute break. I understand how the time disappears. And yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, if it was something more under that, oh sorry,
Really,
if
it wasn't your thing. Really,
wasn't
was
my
it?
thing. If it's something more my thing, then I probably would do something again. But it would have to involve like Jurassic Park or Dragons or something like that. Otherwise, yeah, that might just be my only build.
We'll see. So what would you say for somebody that actually, hasn't built a kit before? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would recommend it, definitely.
Is there anything you think that Airfix could have done better with any of it, or?
The only thing that I found a little bit different, and which I didn't understand, was having to cut off all the nodules on all the pieces.
It does tell you that, but you didn't bother to look at the pictures to tell you that.
I didn't know that's what that was saying. You didn't show me the instruction sheet to begin with, which actually highlighted it. It said it on there.
You was reading the instructions, building it.
Yeah, but I didn't read them. I was only looking at the colours of them. I didn't realise it was cut there and only there. But to be honest, if I can build one, anybody can build one, because I always stick things together and I normally get stuck to it at the same time. So if I can build it, anybody can build it.
And then they got one fingerprint on it.
Yeah.
So.
And that was in the first couple of minutes as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. So,
yeah.
Okay. So at some point, Mrs. Sully will be painting this model, but she's going to do it in her own way. So we're not going to be following, using the paints within the kit or anything like that. So that could be potentially another video later down the road. If you guys would like to see more from Mrs. Sully doing some stuff, I don't know, put it in the comment section down below. We'll see. So if you're new around here and you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. So also a massive thank you to channel members Barney Mins and John Alex Scale Modelling for supporting the channel. If you guys would like to help support the channel further, there are links in the description down below. So anyway guys, thanks so much for watching and I'll catch you again soon.